Nobody at the Celestial Menagerie had ever seen Curator Drell move so fast. His 6 crystalline legs clicked against the polished floor as he rushed toward the private docking bay. The encrypted message had arrived only an hour ago, but its contents made his 3 hearts beat faster than they had in decades. A human, a living, breathing human from the quarantined world called Earth. The black market trader waited in the shadows of the bay, his ship humming quietly behind him. He was a Groth, one of those gray-skinned merchants who dealt in things that polite society pretended did not exist. "Triple the price," the Groth said, "and I still think I charged too little." Drell's eyes moved to the containment pod behind the trader. Inside, through the frosted glass, he could see a shape, smaller than he expected, softer looking too. "You captured a deathworlder and you are still alive," Drell said. "How?" The Groth laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I caught him sleeping, high in some frozen mountains surrounded by snow and ice. He was watching large predators through some kind of device, taking pictures of them." The trader shook his head. "What kind of creature watches predators for fun?" Drell transferred the credits without further negotiation. The Groth was right. The price was too low. 2 hours later, Sam Wheeler opened his eyes. The first thing he noticed was that he was not cold anymore. The second thing was that he was inside some kind of glass box. The third thing was the creature staring at him from outside. It had 6 legs. Its body was covered in scales that looked like diamonds, and it was taking notes on a floating screen. Sam sat up slowly. His camera was gone. His jacket was gone. He was wearing some kind of simple gray clothing that felt like silk against his skin. "Where am I?" he asked. The creature tilted its head but did not respond. Of course, why would aliens speak English? Sam looked around. His cell was in a large room filled with other cells. Some held creatures he could not even describe. One looked like a floating jellyfish made of purple fire. Another was a mass of tentacles wrapped around itself. In the cell next to his, something with too many eyes was watching him. He was in a zoo. Sam Wheeler, wildlife photographer, had become wildlife. The thought almost made him laugh, almost. Over the next few hours, more creatures came to stare at him. Some were tall and thin-like walking trees. Others were short and round, covered in soft fur. They pointed at him. They made sounds that might have been words. They watched him like he was the most interesting thing they had ever seen. Sam watched them back. That was what he did after all. He had spent 20 years watching animals, learning their patterns, understanding their behavior. These creatures were different, but behavior was behavior. The 6-legged one, the one with diamond scales, seemed to be in charge. It came back several times, always with the floating screen, always taking notes. Sam started calling him the curator in his head. On his second day, Sam noticed something strange. Whenever the keepers brought him near certain cells, the creatures inside became restless. Not angry restless, scared restless. They backed away. They made warning sounds. They acted like prey animals sensing a predator. Sam was the predator. He thought about that for a long time. On Earth, humans were not the strongest or the fastest. They did not have claws or fangs or venom, but they had survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, and each other. Maybe that meant something out here in the galaxy. On his third day, Sam started trying to communicate. He drew pictures in the condensation on his glass walls. Simple things at first: a circle for a star, a smaller circle for a planet, a stick figure for himself. Most of the keepers ignored him, but one did not. She was small, barely up to his chest, covered in soft golden fur with large dark eyes. She reminded him of a fox crossed with a cat. When Sam drew a picture of her, she made a sound like bells ringing. Sam smiled at her. She did not run away. Over the next few days, the foxcat keeper came back again and again. Sam learned that her name sounded something like Pip. He taught her that his name was Sam. She brought him better food when no one was watching. And every night when the lights dimmed and the zoo grew quiet, Sam studied the lock on his cell. It was electronic, controlled by a panel on the outside. It cycled through a maintenance mode every 6 hours. During that cycle, there was a gap of exactly 3 seconds when the magnetic seal weakened. 3 seconds was not much, but Sam Wheeler had once waited 14 hours in freezing temperatures to photograph a snow leopard. Patience was something he understood very well. On his 7th night, as the zoo slept around him, Sam pressed his hand against the glass and smiled. Soon, he whispered to no one, he was done being an exhibit. The scientific report on the human specimen made no sense to anyone who read it. Curator Drell stood before an audience of wealthy patrons, each one representing a different species from across the galaxy. They had paid enormous sums to see the deathworlder in person. Now they wanted answers that Drell did not have. The subject requires atmosphere that would poison most species, Drell said, reading from his notes. It drinks a liquid that corrodes metal. It sleeps for 8 hours out of every 24, completely unconscious and defenseless, yet this does not seem to bother it. A Velthani merchant raised a tentacle. Is it intelligent? We are uncertain, Drell hesitated. It makes marks on its enclosure that might be communication. It watches us watching it, and it has already learned to recognize 12 different keeper species and their behavioral patterns. The audience murmured. Learning 12 species in less than a standard week was unusual. Learning them from inside a cage was disturbing. Inside that cage, Sam Wheeler was counting footsteps. He had figured out the patrol schedule. Every 20 minutes, a keeper walked past his section. The diamond-scaled one, the curator, came exactly 3 times per day cycle. The small fox cat, Pip, came whenever she could sneak away from her duties. Right now, Pip was standing outside his cell, pretending to check his water supply. Sam, she said quietly. Her galactic common was simple enough that he was starting to understand some words. He pointed at himself, Sam, then at her, Pip, then at the curator, visible across the room, Drell. Pip made the bell-ringing sound that meant yes. Sam had been practicing words every day. Pip taught him without telling anyone. She brought him recordings of spoken language. She corrected his pronunciation. She was risking her job, maybe more, but she kept coming back. Why, he asked her once, using a word she had taught him. She had tilted her head and touched the glass between them. You are alone. No one should be alone. Today, Sam wanted to ask something more important. He had been piecing together information for days, listening to conversations he barely understood, watching how different species reacted to him. Earth, he said carefully. What is Earth? Pip's ears flattened against her head. That was fear. Deathworld, she whispered. Sam knew that word. The keepers used it whenever they talked about him. He always thought it was just a name, like how humans might call a dangerous planet something dramatic. What means Deathworld? He asked. Pip looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then she pulled out her small screen device and showed him a chart. It took him a while to understand it, but when he did, everything changed. The chart showed categories for planets: atmosphere, gravity, radiation, temperature, predator density, natural disasters. Each category had levels from 1 to 10. Most inhabited worlds scored between 2 and 4 in each category. Earth scored 8 or higher in all of them. According to this chart, Earth was a hellscape, a nightmare world where survival was statistically impossible. The gravity crushed bones. The atmosphere was corrosive. The temperature swung from boiling to freezing. Predators filled every environment. The planet itself tried to kill its inhabitants with earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, and floods. And humans lived there, billions of them thriving. Sam looked at his own hands, regular human hands. He thought about his childhood in rural Montana, camping in forests filled with bears and mountain lions. He thought about diving in oceans with sharks. He thought about the casual way humans talked about surviving disasters. I am monster, he asked Pip. Her ears were still flat, her eyes were very large. Yes, she said honestly, you are most dangerous thing in this zoo. Sam sat down heavily on the floor of his cell. The apex predators that filled this facility, creatures that terrified entire star systems, they were afraid of him. Not because he had attacked anyone, because something in their instincts, some ancient survival sense, recognized what he was. A survivor, a predator who did not know he was a predator, a creature from a world that should have been impossible. He thought about the snow leopards he had been photographing when he was taken. Beautiful, deadly cats that could survive in the harshest mountains on Earth. He had loved them because they were survivors, perfectly adapted to an unforgiving environment. He was the same thing, he just never knew it. Sam looked up at Pip, who was still watching him nervously. "I want," he said slowly, choosing words he knew, "help others, not hurt, help." Pip blinked, then her ears lifted slightly. "Help how?" Sam smiled. It was not a predator smile, even though maybe it should have been. It was the smile of a man who had just figured out what he was good at. "First," he said, "you teach me more words, then I show you." Sam had become famous without trying. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see the Deathworld survivor. They pressed against the viewing barriers, taking images, making sounds of amazement and fear. Sam Wheeler, wildlife photographer, had become the most popular exhibit in the celestial menagerie. He hated it, but he also used it. Every day brought new information. He listened to visitors talking, improving his galactic common. He watched how different species moved, learning their body language. He studied the zoo itself, memorizing every exit, every patrol route, every weakness. 3 weeks after his capture, Sam knew the menagerie better than most employees. The day everything changed started normally. Crowds gathered outside his enclosure during peak hours. Keepers brought his meals at regular intervals. Pip sneaked by during her break to practice language with him. Then the screaming started. Sam pressed against the glass of his cell, trying to see what was happening. About 50 meters away, near the entrance to the dangerous species wing, a crowd was scattering in panic. A small shape was drifting through the air, moving in the wrong direction. It took Sam a moment to understand what he was seeing. The shape was a child, a Lumineth child. The Lumineth were beings made of living light, beautiful and fragile. This one was young, barely formed, and it was floating toward an enclosure marked with warning symbols in every known language. The Void Serpent Enclosure. Sam had learned about void serpents during his weeks of observation. They were creatures that fed on energy. Light, heat, electricity, life force. They ate anything that radiated power. A Lumineth, a being made of pure energy, would be like a feast to them. The child must have wandered away from its parent group. Now it was drifting, curious and unaware, towards certain death. Security teams were moving, but they were too slow. The Lumineth child was too close to the enclosure. If they opened it to grab the child, the serpent might escape. If they did not act, the child would drift through the feeding gaps and be consumed. Sam did not think about what he did next. He just did it. He had been studying the maintenance cycle of his lock for weeks. He knew exactly when the 3-second gap occurred. It was happening right now. Sam hit the glass at the exact right moment. The magnetic seal flickered. He hit it again, harder, and the door popped open just enough for him to squeeze through. Then he was running. A human running at full speed is not particularly fast compared to many species. But Sam was not trying to be fast. He was trying to be first, and he was. He crossed the viewing platform in seconds, shoving past shocked aliens, ignoring the shouts of security. The Lumineth child was just reaching the edge of the Void Serpent enclosure, its small form flickering with innocent light. Sam scooped it up without stopping. The child felt like holding warm sunshine. It made a sound like wind chimes, confused and scared. Sam tucked it against his chest and tried to turn away. He was not fast enough. The Void Serpent struck through the feeding gap, a ribbon of absolute darkness that wrapped around Sam's arm and shoulder. The cold was unbelievable. Sam felt his energy draining, his warmth disappearing, his vision going gray at the edges. But he did not let go of the child. Human bodies are stubborn things. They evolved on a deathworld, fighting against extinction every single day. Sam's cells resisted the energy drain. His heart kept beating, his arms kept holding. 3 seconds passed, then 5, then 10. Security finally reached him. They pulled him away from the enclosure, prying the serpent's grip loose with specialized tools. Sam collapsed on the floor, still clutching the glowing child, his arm black with frostbite, his body shaking uncontrollably. The Lumineth child floated free, unharmed, and drifted into the arms of its screaming parent. Sam smiled weakly, then he passed out. He woke up in a medical bay, surrounded by aliens who looked at him like he was insane. Curator Drell stood at the foot of his bed, his crystalline scales reflecting the harsh lights. Behind him, a crowd of officials argued in rapid galactic common. "You nearly died," Drell said. His voice was strange. Sam had never heard that tone from him before. "Child okay?" Sam asked. "The child is fine because of you." Drell stepped closer. "Why did you do that? The Lumineth are not your species. You had no obligation to risk yourself." Sam thought about the question. It seemed obvious to him, but maybe it was not obvious to everyone. "Child was scared," he said simply. "Child needed help. I could help, so I helped." Drell stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and left without another word. Later, Pip came to visit. She told Sam that video of his rescue had spread across the galaxy. Billions of beings had watched a deathworlder nearly die to save a child he had never met. "They do not understand," Pip said softly. "Understand what?" "Why you did it. They think you wanted reward or status or mating rights." She tilted her head. "But you just wanted to help. That is strange to them." Sam laughed even though it hurt. "Humans are strange." "Yes," Pip agreed. "You are the strangest thing I have ever known." The investigator arrived on a ship that looked like a blade cutting through space. Her name was Kayla, and she was a judicial arbiter from the core worlds. She had cold gray skin, 4 arms, and eyes that seemed to see through everything they looked at. She had been sent by the Galactic Council to answer one simple question. Was the celestial menagerie illegally holding a sentient being? Sam watched her enter the medical bay where he was still recovering. His arm was healing slowly, wrapped in some kind of regeneration gel that smelled like flowers. He had been told that most species would have died from the void serpent attack. Humans, apparently, were too stubborn to die easily. "Samuel Wheeler," Kayla said. Her voice was flat and official. "I am here to determine your status." "Sam is fine," he said, "and my status is tired." Kayla did not smile. She pulled out a recording device and placed it between them. "I will ask you questions. You will answer honestly. Your responses will be transmitted to the council in real time." Sam nodded. He had nothing to hide. The questions started simple. Where was he born? Montana, Earth. What was his profession? Wildlife photographer. How was he captured? He was sleeping in a tent in the Himalayas, and he woke up in a spaceship. Then the questions got harder. "Describe your species," Kayla said. Sam thought about it. "We are survivors. Earth is not an easy place to live. We learn to work together because alone we would die. We build communities. We take care of each other. We take care of things that cannot take care of themselves." "Your planet is classified as a death world. How did your species survive?" "We adapted, we learned, we refused to give up." Sam smiled slightly. "Humans are very good at refusing to give up." Kayla checked her notes. "According to records, humans engage in recreational activities that would be classified as suicide attempts on most worlds. You climb mountains that kill you. You swim in waters filled with predators. You expose yourselves to extreme temperatures for entertainment. We call those hobbies. You understand this is considered insane by galactic standards." "I am beginning to understand that, yes." Kayla was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that Sam knew was coming. "Why did you risk your life to save the Lumineth child?" Sam looked at his bandaged arm. The frostbite was healing, but it still ached. He could have died. He probably should have died. But when he saw that child floating toward danger, he did not think about any of that. "On Earth we have a saying," he said. "If you can help, you should help. That child needed help. I could help. The species did not matter." But you gained nothing. The Lumineth are not allies of humanity. They cannot offer you political support or resources. I did not do it for a reward. I did it because it was right. Kayla stared at him with those seeing-through eyes. Sam met her gaze and did not look away. Before she could ask another question, alarms began screaming throughout the facility. Red lights flashed. Automated voices announced warnings in a dozen languages. Kayla grabbed her communicator and listened to rapid reports, her gray face growing paler with each word. "Containment failure," she said. "Dangerous species wing. Shadowclaw hunters have escaped." Sam knew about Shadowclaws. He had studied every dangerous creature in the zoo during his weeks of captivity. They were pack predators, fast and smart and absolutely lethal. Their claws could cut through metal. Their hunting instincts were perfect. They had killed dozens of handlers over the years. "What is the protocol?" he asked. Kayla's voice was grim. "Seal the wing, vent it to space." "But there are other creatures in there, other specimens." 37 of them, including 4 endangered species. Kayla looked at him. "There is no other option. We cannot fight Shadowclaws. No one can." Sam thought about the snow leopards he used to photograph. Apex predators, yes, dangerous absolutely, but not evil, just animals following their nature. "What if someone went in there?" he asked. "Someone who could communicate with them." Kayla's eyes widened. "That is suicide." "For most species, maybe." Sam swung his legs off the medical bed. His arm screamed in pain, but he ignored it. "I am not most species." "You want to walk into an enclosure with escaped Shadowclaws, the deadliest pack hunters in the known galaxy. I want to try something else before you kill 37 innocent creatures." Kayla was silent for a long moment. The alarms kept screaming. Somewhere in the facility, security teams were preparing for the worst. "The Council is watching this transmission," she said finally. "If you die, it will be broadcast across the galaxy." Sam smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had made peace with bad odds a long time ago. "Good," he said. "Then everyone will see what happens next." The door to the dangerous species wing opened with a sound like a sigh. Sam stepped through into darkness. Behind him, the door sealed shut. There was no going back now. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the corridor. Sam could hear creatures moving in their enclosures, agitated by the alarms and the chaos. But he was listening for something specific. Claws on metal, breathing in the dark, the sounds of hunters on the move. He found them in the central hub of the wing. There were 6 Shadowclaws, each one the size of a large wolf but built like a nightmare. Their bodies were covered in scales that shifted color to match their surroundings. Their claws were the length of his forearm. Their eyes reflected the red emergency lights like drops of blood. The Pack Alpha saw him first. It was larger than the others, scarred from old fights, radiating the confidence of a creature that had never lost. Sam stopped walking. He did not run. He did not show fear. He had spent years photographing dangerous animals, and he knew one truth that never changed. Predators responded to behavior, not words. He lowered himself to one knee, slowly, no sudden movements. The Alpha tilted its head. That was curiosity, not aggression. Good. Sam had studied these creatures through the glass of his cell. He had watched how they moved, how they communicated, how they established hierarchy. They were pack animals like wolves. They respected strength, but they also respected calm. He reached out with his uninjured hand, palm down, fingers loose. A submissive gesture, but not a fearful one. An invitation. The Alpha moved closer. Its breath was warm against Sam's skin. It smelled like copper and something else, something wild. Sam met its eyes, not a challenge, an acknowledgement, one predator recognizing another. "Easy," he said softly. The word did not matter, the tone did. "Easy now, I am not here to hurt you." The Alpha's claws clicked against the floor. It circled Sam once, twice. The other Shadow Claws watched, waiting for their leader's decision. Sam stayed perfectly still. His heart was pounding, but he controlled his breathing. Animals sensed fear through smell and body language. He could not afford to show either. The Alpha stopped in front of him. It lowered its massive head until they were face to face. For one terrible moment, Sam thought he had made a mistake. He thought the creature would strike, ending everything in a flash of claws and blood. Instead, the Alpha pressed its forehead against his. It was a greeting, a sign of acceptance. Sam had seen wolves do something similar when welcoming a new pack member. "Okay," Sam whispered. "Okay, good." He stood up slowly, and the Alpha stood with him. The other Shadow Claws moved closer, sniffing at him, their aggression fading into curiosity. Sam started walking toward the containment zone. The Alpha walked beside him, matching his pace. The rest of the pack followed. Outside the wing, through security cameras, billions of beings watched in stunned silence. Pip was crying, her golden fur wet with tears. Curator Drell had stopped breathing entirely. Even Kayla, the cold arbiter, was staring at the screen with her mouth open. A human was leading the deadliest pack hunters in the galaxy like they were loyal pets. Sam reached the main containment area and stopped. He turned to face the pack, and they gathered around him, waiting. He pointed at the heavy door ahead, the one that led to their original enclosure. "Home," he said, then he repeated it in broken galactic common. "Home, safe, no hurt." The Alpha looked at the door, then back at Sam. Its eyes were intelligent, more intelligent than anyone had realized. It understood. The pack moved through the door, one by one. The Alpha went last, pausing to look back at Sam one more time. Sam raised his hand in farewell. The Alpha made a sound, low and rumbling. Then it disappeared into the enclosure, and the door sealed behind it. Sam collapsed against the wall, suddenly exhausted. His injured arm was throbbing. His whole body was shaking. But he was alive, and so were the Shadow Claws, and so were the 37 other creatures that would have died in a containment purge. The door behind him opened, and security teams poured in, followed by Kayla and Curator Drell and Pip, and what seemed like half the staff of the menagerie. "How?" Kayla demanded. "How did you do that?" Sam looked at her with tired eyes. "Predators are not evil. They are just beings trying to survive. If you approach them with respect and understanding, they respond to that. But they have killed dozens of handlers. Handlers who approached them with fear and aggression. Handlers who saw them as monsters instead of creatures." Sam pushed himself to his feet. "I saw them as what they are, animals with instincts and needs and the capacity to recognize another predator." Pip rushed forward and hugged him, not caring about professional boundaries. Sam hugged her back. Drell stepped forward, his crystalline scales catching the light. "I owe you an apology," he said. "You are not a specimen, you never were." "No," Sam agreed, "I was not." The sign above the entrance read Wheeler Sanctuary in 12 different languages. Sam hated the name, but no one had asked his opinion. 6 months after the Shadowclaw incident, the Celestial Menagerie had been transformed into something new. No more exhibits, no more cages for intelligent beings, just a sanctuary for creatures that needed protection. And at the center of it all was one stubborn human who refused to stop caring. Sam walked through the morning crowd, nodding at visitors and staff alike. Pip walked beside him, her golden fur bright in the artificial sunlight. She had been promoted to Senior Communications Officer, which was a fancy title for being Sam's translator and best friend. "You have 42 messages," she said, checking her screen. 15 are requests for interviews, 8 are marriage proposals from various species, 19 are diplomatic inquiries. And the other one? A distress call from a colony world. Something is attacking their settlements. They want it killed. Sam stopped walking. "Show me." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a forested world with small settlements scattered across clearings. Something large had been tearing through crops and buildings, leaving destruction in its wake. "They say it is a monster," Pip translated. "Unstoppable, unkillable. They have lost 14 colonists already." "Did anyone try talking to it?" Pip tilted her head. "They tried shooting it." "Of course they did." 3 days later, Sam's ship landed on the colony world of Verdant 7. The colonists gathered to meet him, a mix of species united by fear and anger. They wanted the monster dead. They wanted revenge for their losses. Sam wanted to understand. He tracked the creature for 2 days through dense forest, following broken branches and claw marks in soil. It was big, whatever it was, strong, fast, and it was heading somewhere specific. He found it in a canyon at the edge of the settlement zone. It was massive, nearly 4 meters tall, covered in thick plates of natural armor. Its claws could tear through steel. Its roar shook the ground. By any definition, it was a monster. But it was also a mother. 3 small shapes huddled behind her, young ones barely half her size. They were thin and scared, pressed against the canyon wall while their mother stood guard. Sam looked at the surrounding area, mining equipment, drill marks in the rocks. The colonists had been expanding into this canyon, destroying the creature's habitat. She had attacked because they threatened her children. He approached slowly, the same way he had approached the Shadowclaws. No fear, no aggression, just calm recognition. The mother creature roared at him, a warning. Sam stopped and sat down on a rock. "I know," he said quietly. "I know you are scared. I know you are protecting them. I understand." He stayed there for hours, not moving, not threatening. The mother watched him with suspicious eyes, but she did not attack. Eventually, he pulled food from his pack and tossed it gently toward the young ones. They hesitated, then crept forward to eat. The mother let them. By sunset, Sam had negotiated a solution. The colony would stop mining in the canyon and establish a wildlife corridor around the creature's territory. In exchange, the family would be relocated to a protected area far from the settlements. No more deaths, no more destruction. The colonists grumbled, but they agreed. Killing the creature would have been expensive and dangerous. This way was easier, even if it was not as satisfying. Sam stayed to oversee the relocation himself. When the mother creature finally walked into her new territory, she paused and looked back at him. Sam raised his hand in farewell, just like he had done with the Shadowclaw Alpha. The creature made a low sound, almost gentle. Then she led her children into the forest and disappeared. On the flight back to the sanctuary, Pip showed Sam something unexpected, a news story from Earth. His photographs had been published. The images of snow leopards he had been taking when he was captured, somehow they had made it back to civilization. A conservation group had found his work and released it to honor his memory. The photos had inspired a massive fundraising campaign. A new protected reserve had been established in the Himalayas, saving hundreds of snow leopards from extinction. Sam Wheeler, missing and presumed dead, had saved lives even from across the galaxy. He laughed and cried at the same time. When they landed at the sanctuary, Orin was waiting. The Lumineth merchant whose child Sam had saved all those months ago had become one of their biggest supporters. He was practically glowing, which for a Lumineth was normal. "We have another case," Orin said. "A space station near the border is reporting a dangerous creature in their cargo hold. They want to space it." "Forward me the details," Sam said. Pip already had the information ready. "It appears to be some kind of juvenile predator, possibly smuggled illegally. The station master is demanding immediate action." Sam looked out at the sanctuary, at the creatures wandering freely in habitats designed for their comfort. Shadowclaws playing in artificial darkness. Void serpents swimming through carefully managed energy fields. Dozens of species that the galaxy had called monsters, living in peace because someone took the time to understand them. "Tell them I am on my way," he said. Pip smiled, her tail wagging. "I already did." Sam Wheeler, the human from the quarantined Deathworld, walked toward his ship. Behind him, creatures that could terrify entire star systems gathered at their enclosure edges to watch him go. They were not exhibits anymore. They were family. And somewhere out there, another monster was waiting to be understood.